The oldest argument anyone will ever have about Brexit is, what was Brexit really about? And in reality, it had nothing to do with immigration, as many people say. Um, it was always down to the fact that the very key Brexiteers, the pushers of Brexit initially, wanted to get rid of regulations. They do not like regulations. They are free market libertarians and they are free market fundamentalists. And as far as they are concerned, there should be no government regulation in the market whatsoever. That is their position. That is their goal. They want to remove as much as regulation as possible. And they even go openly and actually say that. But the key thing they obviously don't say is what regulations they actually want to get rid of. Because you may have heard, of course, Boris Johnson famously say that he wants to strengthen such regulations. Even back during 2016, and many people who were, again, in the Conservative Party who were pro-Remain were positively for regulations even after they switched over to the pro-Brexit side after the referendum. It was still very, very much, let's keep these very high regulations. Hence why we've seen in cabinet very recently arguments break out over farming regulations, over these new potential trade deals. Again, the Conservative Party is split on many, many ideological fronts, and regulations being a key one. But of course, they don't really want to have that fight in the open, because that might then tell people what Brexit was really about, was regulations. And of course, when you poll British people about regulations, they're always in favour of having high standards of regulations and basically the government being involved in regulating markets. Again, they can't say the full agenda out loud, but they can say part of it out loud, though. So let's dive in to find out what's happening in the chemicals, because this is going to have a big effect on the UK chemical industry, which will again have a big effect on our economy. So before we go diving into that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button down below. And also down below, there are links to my Patreon page, as well as one donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me a coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way, as well as the Patreon page. And of course, the YouTube memberships are open as well, so you'd like to support the channel that way as well. So let's go diving into this then. This comes from The Guardian, the title, Experts Warn Over Post-Brexit UK Rule Changes on Chemicals. The government is planning to water down the regulatory requirements on key chemicals in what experts fear could be the first move to weaken the post-Brexit safety regime for potentially toxic substances. The proposals published last week without fanfare on a government website will set out some of the intended new rules for a new post-Brexit national chemicals regulator. The proposals would change the way substances of very high concern, which include potential toxins and carcinogens and chemicals that are present for a long time, even in the environment, are dealt with. Under EU law, these chemicals are formally identified and publicly listed on a candidate list, while the authorities analyse them and decide whether to ban them or allow their use in certain circumstances by transferring them to an authorisation list. Companies must then inform regulators of their supply chains while dealing with the producers containing these candidate list chemicals and encouraging them to use alternatives. Under the government's proposals, companies will not be obliged to submit information on substances of very high concern, which will be allowed to do so on a voluntary basis. Only chemicals likely to be transferred to the authorization list would be listed on the candidate list, meaning that a smaller number of notifiable chemicals will actually be analysed. Zoe Allison, the policy analyst at the Green Alliance think tank, said that relying on voluntary data submissions by chemical companies will almost certainly see hazardous substances fall through the cracks. The UK could have made very sensible arrangements to reduce the costs for industry and safeguard public health, yet the government has boxed itself into a corner after the new delay for companies to submit safety data for the UK market. This is a very worrying sign for the future of the chemical regulations here in the UK. Experts have told The Guardian that they were concerned over the government's move that it would weaken the protections against harmful substances and allow potentially toxic chemicals to slip through the net. Michael Warhurst, the executive director of Chemical Trust, a charity that champions and campaigns for harmful chemicals, says that that the government is putting an unnecessary layers of information and requirements before taking action. This will lead to regulatory inaction on a range of harmful substances and will open the door to British consumers and the environment having a greater exposure to harmful chemicals than when we're in the EU, and they're a second-rate system for regulating chemicals post-Brexit. Jamie Page of the Cancer Prevention and Education Society added, "We are now concerned that the protections that British citizens previously enjoyed are now being eroded, and the UK further continues to diverge from the EU reach, the registration, evaluation, authorization, research of chemicals, the system and database that is more likely people are to be exposed to potentially hazardous chemicals. The proposals by the government will not be subject to public consultation and will not require a vote in Parliament. Under the post-Brexit legal arrangements, ministers can just make such alterations without discussion." A spokesperson for the Department of Environmental, Food and Rural Affairs said, "We are continuing to try maintaining an effective regulatory system and management for the control of chemicals, which safeguards human health and the environment and can respond to emergency risks. We've published our interim approach to the candidate list to the UK reach. At this time, the approach aims to ensure that we have a single coherent approach to nominating substances for the candidate list." And as you can see, this is absolutely going to fail spectacularly. I mean, why on earth is it voluntary? Like, why on earth are they making it voluntary? We've seen how this goes. We know how this goes. Companies that may be using potentially toxic or harmful chemicals aren't just going to go to the government and say, "Oh yeah, by the way, we're using potentially harmful chemicals that might have, an impact, a heavy impact on the environment or maybe on public health itself." And I guarantee you, we will be seeing in the future instances of where this has happened. And even more worryingly, as we've said before, this is a prime example of ministers and, again, this very pro-Brexit Parliament trying to find ways to vastly undermine and get rid of much regulation as it possibly can without having to put it through Parliament. Let's put it this way. This bill and these changes they have put through will not pass. Like, they will not pass at all if this was put through Parliament. This is far, far too dangerous to do. And indeed, if you want to make a change, if you are indeed worried about this, as is always, my first and primary port of call for all of you, and you should know this by now, is write to your MP. Like I say, look at this article here. It's on The Guardian. Like I say, the title is "Experts Warn Over Post-Brexit Rule Change on Chemicals." Look at what these experts are saying, take what they're saying, put that in a letter to your local MP and say that this must be put through Parliament. This is a change that cannot go through because these rules are a vastly watered down version of what we had when we were in the EU. And this is what we can expect, by the way, for other post-regulatory bodies while we're outside of the EU. And again, this will have huge implications on our economy, public health, and the environment here in the UK. But that's what we've always said would happen. And now they're making a very clean move here in the UK, and especially doing this very quietly as they possibly can, because they don't want this to be too much of a ruckus. So please do go right to your MP about this if you are in the UK. This is indeed a very, very important subject to do. So with that said, thank you once again very much for watching. Like I say, please do go right to your MPs. This is a very important subject for them to know about and to bring up in Parliament. It is very, very crucial. So please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Heck, you can even send them this video if you want. So also down below, there are links to my Patreon page and, of course, my one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support the channel that way. And, of course, we'll see you all next time.